Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast to Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co host, Ed Carbajal. Check us out weekly at allaccessmma.com for our video podcast. What's going on, Ed? I know I just got to talk to you before we recorded, but earlier this week on Monday, I was had the privilege of being a guest on the Living Death show with Jay Pitry, Ben Duffy, and Ant Walker, the boys over there from Sherdog. So that's on their
The
that's
Living
on.
Death podcast. I linked to the description on the YouTube channel. It'll be linked on the audio for folks that are listening on Spotify too. But what a bunch of fucking birds! Nobody tags me when the shit goes live, and here I am waiting for watching Jay Petrie's Twitter handle, and then you guys do a rope a dope, and Ben Duffy tweets it out, and I hear nothing from nobody. The hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's not my show, but I had a blast doing it. Guys are awesome over there.
Yeah, I've
So
been on that podcast a couple times too, and Ant and Ben. Obviously, they both Ben and Jay have been on here. I've been trying to get Ant on here, but he's between him working and being a dad, that's been proven difficult to do, especially with him being on in your side of the country. But all three of those dudes, Living Death podcast. If you're not subscribed, watching and listening, please make sure you do. I dropped their link in the description.
So obviously, don't want to be too redundant because we'd like people to listen to that show. So don't want to do too much repeating. But
Mm-hmm.
for those that don't listen and are strictly our listeners, a quick comment about UFC San Diego. Marlon Vera, obviously, career victory for him. Him and Cruz both look good up into the point of the knockout.
It was a great fight. Yeah.
Great fight. Fourth round head kick knockout. Whole night of action. We talked about it coming off of a card full of finishes. You're always kind of worried. Well, the MMA gods delivered, and wasn't a night full of finishes, but there was a lot of highlights, a lot of brutal knockouts, and just some really, really good fights that made the night worth it to not only attend and pay premium ticket price to go,
Mm-hmm.
but I imagine even watching on TV, there was a couple fights that had to just have people standing up, in their living rooms. So,
Yeah, I recorded it and watched it afterwards so I could fast forward through commercials. I know I bitched about the pacing at the last episode, but I think the difference, I think when you get a live event at a place like San Diego versus a live event in the Apex, we're going to see better pacing because I actually enjoyed that card. I mean, granted, I watched it recorded and fast forward through commercials, but it didn't seem as bad as the week before.
No, there was a bunch of fights. They actually started the event. So we've talked about it in the past. Generally, it's like 30-minute windows for each
Mm-hmm.
fight. This one, they're actually like the prelims were only like 3 hours, but they had 7 prelim fights scheduled. So there was like that extra 30 minutes where they had another fight. So it did seem to move, even being in the crowd, because there was a couple times you had the back-to-back quick knockouts early in the prelims, and I'm going, oh Christ, we're in for a 45-minute Ryzen level level
Yeah.
break here, and we really didn't get that. There might have been a 15 or a 20 minute early on, but it was early. The arena hadn't packed by then, but it was a pretty good crowd arriving early. And as I mentioned on the other show, the arena was electric. And just to get back to that, it just adds to so much to it. You got to believe that the fighters, take that in, and it shows in some of their performances, especially with these younger guys. I can only imagine the hype of being, you think you're on a fight night, it's not, all of a sudden you walk into the arena and there's a legit, 10 to 12,000, screaming sold out fans in the arena. So good night of action. When we have plenty of bad things to say about the UFC, but the last 2 fight night events have both been, other than the pacing, the first of
Yeah,
the
no,
2.
yeah.
But the fights have been outstanding. So I guess more props to the fighters for showing up, and some of the matchmaking. I get, when you get some of these back and forth battles that are just crazy chaos, you got to give props to the matchmakers for setting that up. So that was last weekend. This weekend is loaded with action.
Mm-hmm.
We can't even get deep into everything. The Joshua Usyk 2 heavyweight world title fight kicks off.
Busy in the UK on that
uh,
side of the world.
yeah,
Yeah.
noon Eastern. Yeah, it's and this, the really the three early events on Saturday are all UK based. So you have the heavyweight world championship. I think it's on the DAZN. We're kind of anti DAZN at this point, but I'm sure there's other ways to find your viewing. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
Ways to view.
If you ain't got
That's
nothing to do Saturday morning, yeah.
Yeah, so that starts I think noon Eastern. Also around the same time, give or take an hour, PFL 9 also is happening. Kyla Harrison fights. The Circus Act been there. Again, spoke about that on the other show. A lot
Mhm.
going on there. Circus Act stuff, moving events, fighter visas not going through, tournaments falling apart. Um, you know, we
Somehow
like
they get money. Somehow
we
they keep
like
getting
chaos in
funding.
MMA, but not when it starts affecting fighters' pay
Yeah.
and just the legitimacy of what's going on there. So that also starts. I believe that's also a noon start, and then BKFC 27, the event that we kind of shocked the combat world when it was announced. That kicks off 1 p.m. Eastern time. MVP Michael Venom Page in the main event against Platinum Mike Perry. Uh, I mean, we never thought we'd see MVP do this. At least it never
Mhm.
crossed my mind up until the minute it was announced. I thought it was a fake tweet when I
Yeah.
first saw it. And two, I mean, for bare knuckle fighting, circus act, I love it. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how this unfolds.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be fun. And it's crazy, but like every time we get these weird matchups like this, it's this is the closest we'll get to like a UFC versus Bellator, or, whatever. But it's crazy how they have to step out of MMA for us to see. It's always like in a submission only grappling event or something like this. But the fact that this is all striking and bare knuckle, and I mean, honestly, I don't know about you. I feel like this favors Mike Perry more than it favors MVP, just because MVP, I know he's a striker and I know he's got a boxing record, but if Paulie Malignaggi can't beat Artem Lobov in BKFC, then that means it's probably the most even play field we'll get when it comes to striking two combatants from different disciplines, striking.
Yeah, when you take the kicks away from Page, obviously
Hmm.
that's a huge thing with his reach and the ectomorph body that allows him to do the Inspector Gadget Dalsum,
Yeah.
long kicks, long punches. I do think he's going to be able to use his movement. I think the round ring might work in his favor, similar to MMA, obviously, where there's no corners. He's going to be able to basically kind of, circle and bounce around, I think. Now, obviously, as opposed to MMA, these dudes are going to start the fight 3 feet apart from each other at the line, as opposed to against the fence. So
Hmm.
you really are in instant strike zone. And Joey Beltran spoke to that when he came on the show about defenses. You go up to that line, dudes drop their hands like they're getting ready to box it out, and before you know it, they're getting chin checked. Whereas he's going, no, I get my hands up. I'm set to take that first couple punches because
Hmm.
it's there. I might as well defend myself. So that's going to be an interesting thing. We know Mike Perry can take a beating. I mean, good or bad, we know that he can be in a war. I'm not so sure we know that about MVP. I know MVP's been around, it seems like forever now. I don't remember him tasting his blood a whole lot. I don't remember him having to deal with a bad cut. All things that psychologically I do
Yeah.
believe kind of play a factor in the world of fighting.
Yeah.
And we said in the past, once you taste your blood, and the real champions are the guys who get their ass beat and then regroup and are like, okay, I got what it takes to do this. I'm not afraid to get my skull crushed. Let's rock.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying MVP can't do that because he has, he's from MMA, and beaten some good dudes and obviously been on the downside of some stuff. And he's, he got blasted by Lima, but it was a kind of a flash knockout. It
Hmm.
wasn't where he had to go to the corner, have his nose straightened up and said, get
Yeah.
back out there.
Perry's been in those fights.
So that
Yeah.
could be a thing. I mean, I picked MVP because I do think that the jab in
In the
BKFC is
reach.
like
Yeah, I can
is
see
the
that.
new, with the cuts and such. That jab has become so valuable. I think it's really evolved with BKFC, where a lot of their good fighters now are just realizing like I don't have to hit the guy in the temple like I do in MMA, or I don't have to catch him on the chin. I just gotta touch him. So I don't need to put myself in super danger if I move around, if I pick my shots, I can pick up victories here because I'm gonna turn the guy's face into hamburger, and judges are gonna pick me to win the round, and visually it's going to look, usually I think that's kind of the evolution of what we're seeing some of this, in at least the last maybe half dozen BKFC events that I've really, focused in on. So I like the fight. Connor Tierney, former champ Joe Elmore, co-main event, another banger of a fight. Sam Shoemaker, whether he's getting knocked out or blasting fools for going back to BKFC 1. He fights Mick Terrell, who's making his BKFC debut. We did get news today earlier that Paige Van Zant fight with Sharissa Sigala was pulled. We haven't really quite got, unless you've seen exactly why. I've seen mixed reports about stuff, but it just seems a little bit, I don't want to say fishy, but that fight right now is scheduled to headline a Denver show on October 15th.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
perhaps
the initial report came from my editor over at My MMA News, and he cited poor ticket sales as one of the reasons, which I get maybe something contractually. They're supposed to get a percentage of sales, and that's why. Who knows? But I don't know. Maybe bare knuckles just not that popular out there.
I mean, we just broke down what's going on Saturday morning. It's shocking to me that basically the PFL makes their debut. I know they were there
Yeah,
last
there's a
week.
lot going on in the same area.
BKFC, and then you've got the World Championship fight with Anthony Joshua.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
you're a fight fan, I mean, you have an option of buying the tickets to that or BKFC. The casual, everyone's going to go to what's more comfortable and known. So maybe that's why.
I mean, even me, I'm as big of a BKFC fan as probably 99. I'm in the 99 percentile of BKFC fans. If I was in London that weekend, I'm going to the Joshua. I'm going to the World Championship heavyweight boxing fight. I mean, that's just it. And then I'm going to BKFC, and then I'm going to PFL. So I don't know. It just seems like scheduling is like idiotic, and times like why not. I mean, I know the time changed, but we've seen late shows start, and if I'm BKFC, I'm like, okay, main card starts at 10 o'clock. We got to push this off like 2 hours. I can't go head to head with you know one of their biggest stars, in a boxing fight. So it's interesting, but I'll be watching. Trying to watch all three, but I think the BKFC, whether it's that, getting back to Paige, doesn't sound like she's injured. Ticket sales would make sense. I would think more just for the fact, like, if your gate's not going to be much, you've already got for BKFC, you've got like eight. You had 10 like name fighters who are probably making pretty good money. You might be going, okay, why not push this to October? She'll probably sell out whatever small little arena they go to in the Denver, Aurora area is what I'm hearing rumored. So I mean, it makes a little bit of sense, but it's weak, to it. People that did purchase tickets, it really is kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah.
When there's not a reason to pull it. Like, it's not like one of them got hurt. We have all lived with fighters getting hurt, fighters getting sick, but when it's just like, hey, financially this doesn't do us good anymore, so we're just going to kind of say F you. Not the greatest thing. I will say their app did work last event. I talked mad shit about the app. The first event they ran off of it, maybe it was the second one. Last event it did work good, so it looks like they at least got that cleaned up. That's this weekend. I think it's $4.99 if you pay for the whole year. It's $50, but you get a month for free. People can decide what they want to do with their money, especially because later that evening we really kind of get to the meat and potatoes of this weekend's combat, and that's UFC 278. Usman versus Edwards 2, pay-per-view live from Salt Lake City, Utah. I did talk about this stuff, some of it on Monday. We can still go through.
Yeah, because I got to get my fucking
you
side
gotta
of
get
things.
you gotta get your side in, and
Like,
we
fuck
can
you
see.
guys that left me out. Some people do like listening to me, So, yeah, I mean, the funny thing about I don't know where you want to start with this card. I actually wrote my notes earlier today, knowing we were going to do this, And then it's funny because I think Cole Shelton was the one that pointed it out that they kind of changed the main card already. They moved. Where's my other notes?
Pudilova and Wu to the main card.
Yeah, and they moved Tybura and Romanov to the ESPN prelims. So I was like, okay, I had to rewrite what I was already writing when I saw that. So shout out to Cole Shelton for putting that out there earlier today while I was working on my notes for tonight. I'll probably turn it into a post for my newsletter or something for folks that that missed me on the living death since you guys poorly marketed it. But yeah, they moved them up and I don't understand why, but I feel like Tybura and Romanov, but maybe they just wanted women on the pay-per-view portion. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure what Romanov. I mean, I think Romanov is a future title challenger. Maybe they want to get some eyes on
Yeah,
ESPN on
yeah.
him. I think he's kind of a stud, big gorilla wrestler. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he does serve some problems for a lot of
Yeah.
people in the division. I think he takes this fight over Tabura. Tabura's a good
Mm-hmm.
submission guy, so obviously,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
Because it looks like they switched their spots because that Wu Yanan Pudilova was supposed to be just before the headlining bout between Leandro Sanchez and Jared Gordon, and then they moved them to the main pay-per-view, and Tybura Romanov got because they were supposed to be the second fight initially, and now they're just they're the co-main of the headlining bout of the ESPN. But just I mean I had to do a quick pick of that. It doesn't make any sense to me when we get to, so I don't know if you want to start at the main card first
yeah,
fight or what.
let's just work the main card and work our way up. Let's just go that route. With
So we'll
that
start.
said, yeah, I'm not gonna. Let's. So Tyson Pedro, Harry Hunsucker.
Oh, I like how they display this now on the UFC website. They actually leave the odds now when you expand their details of the fighters. So, oh, they added win by details. I mean, it's a little bit better. Significant strikes. They kind of just separated what they had, actually. But they added odds, which is, oh, more odds than just the overall. Money line and odds to win by knockout or submission. I like that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
no, they're really moving the money into the into the website. I mean,
Yeah.
hey, you know, uh, uh, with that said, now that I see the odds, it
Mm-hmm.
secures my lock of Tyson Pedro to just win this fight by brutal finish. I mean, I think that's kind of what this fight is basically just
Yeah.
let's try to get a brutal ass whooping on the main card.
Yeah, he's the favorite. At what do they have him here at? They use DraftKings odds. He's minus 740.
I mean,
On the money
that's
line.
huge.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, Ronda Rousey over everybody she fought in the early days.
Oh, and this is another one that's going to be the prelims are going to be on ABC and ESPN. They're doing that. They're doing that a lot more lately.
Yeah, makes a
Um.
little more sense than for Romanoff because
Mm-hmm.
you know, I like I said, I think he's got with a win here, he moves probably into the top 10, and I think he becomes kind of that wild card a little bit in the
Mm.
heavyweight division. Once we see how his chin holds up to getting,
Yeah.
you know, taking a big shot. But
I hate to say it though, but I mean, just from my notes about this fight, really quick before I move on, because like Hunsaker's on a 2-fight skid, so I feel like this might be a winner go home fight for him. And although that's motivation enough because of the size of these guys, you could get like a desperation knockout. I still feel like Pedro's, like you said, Pedro's still the one to pick. Um, I'm leaning Pedro. I feel like it's a coin toss, but it's more Pedro for me too. Let's move on to the co-main. I really like the new interface here, though. Wu Yanan versus Lucy Pudilova, women's bantamweight bout. I mean, this is pretty. This is a weird one for me because again, we just talked about switching them. Um,
it seems like I'm not sure what the UFC is going for unless they just, I mean, you know, Wu's coming off of 3 consecutive losses. Pudlova's making I want to say she's making her UFC debut, but did she fight in the
Hmm.
earlier days? Yes, she
Yeah,
fought. She went 0-4. It looks like, or no,
Pudilova. Yeah,
or
yeah,
she nah, she didn't go. She won some fights, but then
yeah.
she left the UFC.
She
Um,
fought an octagon with the OKT
yep,
octagon,
so she
spelled
looks like
OKT. Yeah.
she fought there a half dozen times, picked up five wins in 6 fights. So she's on a 2 fight win streak. It's just an odd. I
Hmm.
mean, maybe they're. I mean, the money line betting line shows an even fight. Maybe there's
Hmm.
something that they're seeing that's going to be barn burner of a fight.
Mm.
I would have preferred to see Miranda Maverick even probably on the main card if we were looking for a female fighter. Uh, but but who knows? Like I said, the last 2 weeks the matchmakers have been on point, so I will give them a chance at
Hmm.
the turkey here in 3 in a row.
So one thing I have in my notes, because I'm picking Podolova to win, because poor Yanan hasn't been doing that great. What is it? What I have here? She's 1-4 in the UFC, so that's not great. But most of those losses were by decision, and then they have Pudilova at +110 to win by decision with these new detailed odds they have on the UFC website. So that might be something to think about if anybody's trying to throw some monies into that fight.
Wait, what? She's +1,000 to win by
No,
decision.
the +110, 110 that they
Oh,
have.
okay, okay. Odds.
No,
She won plus one
so this,
thousand to win by knockout. Okay.
yeah, yeah, 1,000 win by knockout, plus 1,100 to win by submission. But her last two wins were at Octagon, were decisions, and again, Wanan's I don't want to butcher her name, Yanan. Sorry, Wu Yanan. She's all her losses in the UFC are by decision. So that might be some, if you feel like making a +110 on something,
Uh,
it's
eh,
there.
so I mean that's kind of interesting because let's just go down real quick. Now I mean I'm
Hmm.
not a huge gambler here, but
Hmm.
the odds to win by KO or submission for each fighter is at least +1,000 or +800.
Yeah.
You could literally bet $10 on both of the women to win by decision, and I guess you wouldn't win money. It almost seems like you could win money almost betting on them both. They're both kind of underdogs. You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah, I see what you're talking about right here. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
you wouldn't. You would if you bet 20 total. If Pudlova wins, you'd only win 11, so you'd still lose $9. So
Yeah.
it delusional. Never going to be that easy. But yeah, next fight on the card, the legend Jose Aldo, the number 3 ranked bantamweight, fights Merab Dashvili, a fighter we have been following on this show since his early UFC fight
Yeah.
and years ago here. Um, why don't you go first and I'll follow up.
Well, I mean, it's Jose Aldo, right? So, of course, he's got the tools to beat anybody. But the thing, the thing with me looking at this fight and following, the Sarah Longo, Georgian in the Dvalishvili, um, you know, I feel like in this fight, just because we've been seeing so many retirements in MMA, and I mean, we talked about last week, and we saw Dominic Cruz do well and then get his nose broken. Um, we've Aldo's been pretty vocal in the past when he came back to being active again about not wanting to go 5 rounds. There just seems to be some sort of like balance of he's teetering, like he either wants to get another title run or he wants to retire, and we've seen him fatigue when fights kind of go a little longer. Maybe not lately, but it's not that far away either. So you know, Dvalishvili is a grinder, so I can see him. I can see him taking a decision against Aldo here.
Pick I made the other day was Dashvili by grinding out a decision, getting a
Mm,
couple takedowns, being able to win a couple rounds. Um, his chain wrestling, I think at
yeah,
this point might be too much for Aldo. We'll see a younger Aldo, as Ben Duffy
mm,
pointed out on Monday night, would have ate a guy like this up. I just wonder if we're at a point now where you get a little older, you get a little bit. Maybe a little less hungry. Are you fighting
yeah.
off that extra takedown that's coming nonstop over and over and over
Mm,
again? So yeah, I'll take Dashvili. I think like 29-28. I think he might have a little, Aldo maybe comes out good early, and then the wrestling starts, and I have a feeling that it wouldn't make for maybe the most exciting fight. Um, but in a 3-round fight, I could see a couple takedowns leading to a couple rounds being won, and taking this fight, and really shaking up the bantamweight division. Because if Aldo wins, I think you get a little easier towards him kind of getting the next title shot. Dashvili win, we have him and Vera and Sandhagen and Song winner, and it's a free for all at that division. So
Yeah.
but I hope Aldo. I'll be rooting for Aldo. He's a legend.
Yeah, it's always nice to see these guys with the legend name above their as their moniker, as if they can keep getting winnings when they're getting called that. It's great, but it's the opposite is also true. It's kind of sad to watch them lose when they lose, especially if they lose bad.
He's from a past generation. I know he's only
Yeah.
35, but he's been fighting forever.
That's
there's
not young and fighting. Usually it's that's the prime, and then the downhill happens in the 30s.
Yeah, so the question is, will this downhill start earlier because he started so early in a more a little bit more brutal time of MMA.
Really quick before we leave this one, I mean, again, with the new detailed odds on the UFC.com website and their DraftKings, plus 135 for Merab to win by decision. So
that's clearly the. I mean, he's a slight favorite in the overall money line bet, but it looks like that the odds say that he's most likely to win by decision. So,
and speaking of guards changing and stuff like that, Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold. I mean, I went first last time, so you might as well go first on this one.
Paulo Costa, brutal knockout. I don't even know if Costa's that great of a fighter. I just don't think Rockhold's got the chin to be able to take really anything anymore. It's been years since he's won a fight. He's been brutally knocked out multiple times in a row. I did like I don't know if you caught him today at the press conference. I did like a lot of what was coming out of his mouth, kind of putting some people in their place and saying some stuff that it would have been nice if he would have been saying, 8 years ago when he had some real leverage. But I mean, I kind of want Costa to win, and I think he just is gonna, unless he lays an egg and stands in front of a moving. Rockhold has the ability to put a foot in your face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He also has the ability to take somebody down and give them real problems. I just don't know if he can get close enough to Costa where he's going to be able to take even a fraction of a shot to his chin.
Temple. It's the exchange that's because it's not because he's got the height and reach advantage according to these stats on the UFC website, but it's what it's the risk of him getting close enough to get hit back that we've already seen. He's carried those last two knockouts. It seems like he's carrying all those knockouts really bad with like they're not leaving his. They're like emblazoned. They're like etched into his soul. So we'll see. I mean, I just want to check the odds for a knockout. It looks like Costa's a favorite all around. Like
if I is that plus 1,000 for Rockhold to win by knockout?
Yeah.
And by submission? I mean, if you're just throwing around a couple bucks, a $5 bet on hit Rockhold to win by submission or knockout, or even odds to decision. I mean, they clearly think Rockhold has no chance to win this fight.
I hate to say it, but it's hard. You can't.
It's hard, but like, it doesn't mean I can't picture him bouncing around a little bit and somehow, like I said, putting a foot upside Costa's head. It's not.
Not for nothing. If he wins, people are going to be fucking kicking themselves that have been talking shit about him.
I think
it'll be like Andy Ruiz when he knocked out Joshua back in the.
Yeah, I got to see Costa really come back and just do his thing, because there was a time early on I thought he was going to be potentially the future of the division, but I'm not so sure anymore. We got to see where he goes.
Yo, that's my old jefe from Proof Media. He must have heard us talk boxing. Ring generalship. That he's the guy that I had a whole conversation that when we joke around on the podcast about it, it's because of Joseph Correa from Proof Media. So nice.
Awesome.
It's always nice when he drops in. Main event: Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards. I mean, this is number 2, so I mean, let's keep that in mind. That Usman has himself said that he's just lapping everyone in his division now. I don't know. Well, I think you know where I'm going with this. What's your take on this fight?
Same thing I said Monday. I think just Usman is another level of MMA fighter. I think he just continually gets better. I think Edwards has obviously improved. I just don't think that he's at the same level of where Usman is. I think when the history books are written, Usman's going to be one of the top. What are we at now? Top 10, top 20 of all time. I mean, you start splitting hairs once we get another 10 years down the line here in the sports. 40, 50 years old. All of a sudden, you go from a top 3 to a top 5 to it's like the NBA has their top 75 now. I mean, at some point you stop really arguing who's number 3, and you just go,
Yeah.
hey, that he was just as good as number 10.
Yeah.
It's just opinions on taste, and if you're a submission guy, a knockout guy, a just bleed guy, I mean, really, that's just what it comes down to. I think he wins.
Mr. Correa thinks that Edwards is going to upset. Let's check out if let's see if you put he's plus 310 on the money line. I mean, if he upsets him, everybody's gonna be talking about that for a while next week if that happens. But honestly, I don't see it happening.
No, I mean, I don't see it happening. If it were me betting, I'd look at that 900 to win a decision. I mean, I that's 9-1. $10 bet pays $90 if Edwards squeaks out a decision. Heck, we've seen in the past he doesn't necessarily even have to win a decision. He just needs the judges to believe that he wanted to. Corrupt shit can happen. 9-1, not terrible, not a terrible gamble. I just think Usman is going to win the fight. I think he wins by decision. I'll give enough credit to Edwards. I don't think we're going to see a finish. I think he just does his thing and beats up Edwards, and just I think I almost want to picture like St. Pierre Koscheck kind of thing, where it's just like
yeah,
I'm just gonna slap you up a little bit. Like you can't beat me. We can wrestle. You're not gonna out wrestle me. Maybe we're even on the ground occasionally, but in the long run, I'm gonna figure out a way, and I'm gonna make you look like hamburger at the end of the night, and I'm gonna win a 50-45. So that's and I do believe that Edwards is a level ahead of what Koscheck was, but it was a different era, and Koscheck had his moment.
But that's the thing. So, like, I mean, they last fall. It was 2015. A lot of, I mean, there's folks. I mean, to quote Jacob that was on the podcast, the UFC stan probably doesn't even know that they fought back in 2015, and that number they're wondering that they're seeing the number 2 behind their name on the marquee and saying, "Oh, they fought before." Yeah, they did, and Usman won a decision, but they've improved so much. Both of them have gotten better since then. But that still just says that Usman's gotten much better than that. And I feel like, if anything, I mean, if you look at, the way he's been winning lately, I wouldn't be surprised if he just, look at the way Nate Diaz almost knocked out Edwards. I feel like something like that, he gets absolutely knocked out by Usman if something like that happens. So I'm going, I'm going with the favorite Usman. I think, I think I'm picking all the favorites pretty much on this main card.
I mean, I think it sounds like we basically picked the same picks.
Yeah.
I mean, I think really, I think the main event's going to tell the story. If we get a finish, if we get an exciting fight, that's going to kind of carry the card. Because I think Costa Rockhold ends badly for, as we spoke, for Rockhold, but potentially, I think that one is a knockout regardless.
It looks like they bumped him. I thought they were going to be under Gordon and Santos, but Tybur Romanoff are headlining the.
They're headlining the ABC. I did read that earlier. So there's if you're trying to showcase a couple people who Tybur has been around. I mean, it seems forever. I watched him fight before he even got to the UFC, but he's still kind of a newcomer to the fans, like you mentioned, that wouldn't have known If you don't pay attention to a lot, especially some potential lackadaisical heavyweight fights in the past, but he picks up wins. He's got some big wins in his career, so at some point you're going to need some new blood in some of these divisions, and maybe that's what they're trying to showcase a little bit there. Plus potential of two big dudes scrapping.
Yeah.
It can be hit or miss, but if it hits, it could lead to the average fan going, yeah, here we go, let's buy the pay-per-view. So I don't know. I mean, Saturday's loaded. We start to finish, morning to evening, fights all day long. And I should be a great night of action. Before we sign off, we didn't say we were going to talk about this earlier. We did predictions and stuff for this past weekend's Bellator card. I'm not going to go through the whole card, but I feel remiss if we don't mention Goiti Yamauchi. I talked about him. I didn't pick him to win. I did pick Gracie to win. I thought size and height would be a factor.
I think we both did, yeah.
We had our reasons why. I didn't expect Goiti to step into that ring looking like
we overlooked,
and just looking like a damn tank.
We overlooked overall mixed martial arts experience, and I think that was the thing that was what paid off for him. And I did live results, and I was in on the media for that event. So I asked him, like, was there something from Neiman Gracie that you saw when you were fighting that you felt from him that made you feel like you could just drop your hands and come at him like that? And his answer to me, I wrote an article about what his answer was to me. He pretty much took a page out of Bruce Lee's book and said, because he said he knew Gracie had a strategy coming into the fight, given both their grappling backgrounds. But for him, he was like, I didn't have a strategy. I decided to just feel him and react to him, flow like water, like the whole Bruce Lee line. And that's pretty much what he said he did. And it looks like it paid off for him.
So, yeah, I mean, he basically hulked up and then hit the dude with an uppercut from hell.
Yeah.
I mean, great highlight. Great. I mean, just promotion.
And great for him. That was his first main event with them too.
Yeah, and that's what we spoke of last week is the opportunity for a dude to like step into that spotlight.
And one more thing.
Yep.
Somebody who's having a fucking awesome summer deserves some recognition. Aaron Jeffrey, who fought Austin Vanderford on 8 days' notice with the 85-second knockout in the first round, jumped into number 6 of the Bellator MMA rankings as of yesterday. Waited all day for that email to come in. And, something about that boy's right hand. He's funny because I've been talking to him for a while. He talked about, he told me when I first talked to him that he felt his striking was his best asset, but everyone thinks he's a wrestler because of the way he puts pressure on people. And he's actually did this whole video about how he does this move called the butt drag from wrestling, because you're pretty much it's like an arm drag, but you're grabbing the guy's ass and moving him past you. And, because of what it is, it was like a gimmick, and he made a whole video and it was funny. So maybe stuff like that added to why people think his wrestling, but he wanted to test his wrestling against Vanderford, and Bellator has videos out there now from afterwards where he was like, I didn't even get to do that because 85 seconds, 2 right hands behind the ear, dropped Austin Vanderford, which, I mean, again, Vanderford's a monster in his own right. So this says a lot about Jeffrey, and I couldn't be happier for the kid. I mean, he's the shit that kid has been through to get to where he's at, like fucking almost not getting back into his own country and shit, like his gym closing down, like looking for places to train while
going
he
through
was
the XFC,
CFFC, yeah. He was, fighting for and winning that title while he was literally worried about getting back home, and he lost his wallet, and like the guy's been through so much shit. And he said in his post fight in cage interview with fucking Mushmouth McCarthy, he was like, people don't know who I am, but they're gonna know who I am now. So I couldn't be happier for him. Again, if you need a lesson in focus, if you got something you're passionate about in your life, check out the story of Aaron Jeffrey if you need a blueprint on how to pursue what you're passionate about, because that guy's living it. and I hope we see him get a title shot one day soon.
Probably one more big win. I
Yeah.
mean, um, and if you're gonna sell, I mean, obviously quick knockouts are great, but there's something to be said for like that airtime where you get to kind of showcase your skills over a couple rounds or even a couple minutes.
Hmm.
But picture perfect right hand, two in a
Yeah.
row, like you said. Um, it's deceptive because you see the mustache, you see the mullet. Like it doesn't. You don't think like straight up killer. Like you might think like whoa, like but you just don't. You know what I mean? He's kind of got that like deceptive. I mean, it'd be kind of the guy you'd go up to at the bar and kind of pick on, and then you realize that you're twisted into a pretzel and you're
I don't know
you're
about that. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, when he and I finally met that this past June when he made his Bellator debut, you see the number 185, and then
Well, yeah, that I mean, I'm more the
you,
visual. The dude could weigh 120 pounds, but you see a dude with a
yeah,
mullet, that mustache, you're kind of like, oh, okay, who's this
no,
kind of
he's a pretty big
dork,
dude.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I
that's
would
a
I wouldn't be trying to mess with him at a bar.
no, no, but I'm not taking the
Yeah,
height and weight into factor. I'm just talking about the kind of the look but
yeah,
I mean, you come out and you're an assassin. I mean,
yeah.
it's the it's kind of the Fedor thing. Everybody saw Fedor was just this pudgy dude. Well, he's still
Mm,
236 foot, but you didn't know that he had freaking concrete in his hands,
yeah.
and that he could throw you over a freaking the roof of the building.
Hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I think it's great. I think, I think one more fight. I mean, maybe
Yeah, they put him at
Musasi.
number 6, so he's got a lot of options. There's people that probably going to want to get past him. So, whatever they do, I maybe don't rush him, but I wouldn't mind him getting, obviously I'm sure he wants people over him. And again, he's fought twice in 2 months, pretty much, because he fought in June, then he fought again this month. So, I mean, if he wants to get a third one in, he's pretty much damage free. He's like he's healthy enough, and he doesn't take any days off really. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with him. But I mean, I couldn't be happier for the kid.
Oh man, there's some good matchups ahead of him.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, just looking at it real quick here, you obviously you wouldn't expect Musasi to get. He could get an instant rematch with Eblin, but he kind of got worked. I know that he had some in the beginning. There were some positives, but I don't know if I want to see that a rematch of that. It wasn't the most exciting fight. I'll tell you what, Jeffrey Tockoff has me buying a
So
ticket.
it's funny that, and it's funny that that's the name that jumps out to you because when before Musasi lost, they were on the same card, same week, and everything. When we asked Musasi the Wednesday before he lost to Eblin, he was asked, what other names on, with the rankings, what names stand out to for you, and that was the name that he said. So that's actually the two names I saw jump out to me when we got the email, the rankings sent out to us, and yeah, like you said, man, that'd be a fun one. Him and Salter to be a fun one too.
Yeah, and I mean, we're looking at it, if they give Fabian Edwards a title shot. I know he's ranked number 2,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if when you got some of these other guys who are putting on a show. I mean, Jeffrey just knocked a dude out on a big card opening
Mm-hmm.
bout, former title contender. I mean, I almost say give Tokov the shot and do Musasi versus Jeffrey as like
Mm-hmm.
and then let maybe I don't know. That's me playing a little fandom there, but
Mm-hmm.
that all those fights, any mix and match of those. I mean, I know he's under him, but Lorenz Larkin Jeffrey has fireworks written all over it too. I mean, there's some great fight.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, even the fact that they put number 6, there's again the guy I want to get past him. He's literally he's at a point where it could be fun times for Aaron Jeffrey. Moving forward.
Well, he's not going to get an easy matchup. I think his days of I think he's here now. He's established,
Mm,
and it's going to be his next 3 or 4 fights are going to be all killers. It looks like is assuming that this division holds with basically who's top 10 right now. So,
yeah.
um, great week of action this week. Congratulations to Jeffrey um, and Yamauchi. Standout performances over the weekend, along with Marlon Vera. Um, Fans can check us out at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. And as always, you can check us out weekly on www.allaccessmma.com. Check out allaccessmma.com for our video podcast and MMA news. Ed, have a great rest of the week, brother. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And thanks for listening to the Living Death podcast without Ed Carbajal, and nobody tagged Eddie and tell him about it.